Welcome back to the NUTRIMEDICAL report, and yeah, some interesting things in development. Of course, we know that there's a lot of forces at play here in terms of the possible Syrian-Iranian attack, and we have Congressman Walter B. Jones has got a bill in Resolution 107 calling for impeachment of Obama if he attacks Iran or Syria. I think if Obama thinks he's going to be losing the election, he may well greenlight an attack. But I don't think the Israelis are really ready. I think the internal revolts will actually delay it considerably until they think that they can deal with the casualties that can happen. I think also the most likely thing to happen first is, believe it or not, an economic implosion. That will probably be short, painful, and then of course they always have the solution ready to deal with it. On top of that, we have climate shift causing major loss of crops all over the world. So cost of food is going to go up. We have a shift from OPEC to South America, to Venezuela and Brazil, to Belize and other areas where oil is here in North America, to Alaska, to the oil shale deposits across the United States and the oil tar sands in Canada. We also have Earth changes occurring, and we have Ann and Christina. Tell us about the latest in terms of what's going on with the Earth changes and the major sinkhole developments that are occurring, the volcanism and all the other things that are happening to our planet. And do you have some update reports, Christina?
Well, we've had some pretty major earthquakes in the last week. In fact, the number of earthquakes is astounding. 572 in the past week alone, above a 2.5. We had a 7.6 in the Philippines today. A couple in the high sixes in the Jan Mayen region that's between Greenland and Iceland, just north of Iceland, which is a very rare spot for a big quake like that. 4.1 in Yorba Linda. We had also the storm in Brawley. I think the highest one is a 5.5. 7.3 in El Salvador, 6.6 in Indonesia, and then now it's preceded by the large 7.7 in Russia about a week and a half ago. I've been watching some of the buoy movement, NOAA, and the Japan buoys and the Indonesia buoys have been going off for a few days now, showing that the ocean floor seems to be rising and pushing up.
How much is it rising? Because you mentioned the number earlier today before the show.
Yeah, I believe it was 110 meters in Indonesia. And then yesterday we had a 5.5 and a 4.6 off of Honshu, and just within the last hour there were two more there, a 4.5 and a 4.4. And it's really concerning, especially what's going on at the Fukushima plant. You and I didn't even have a chance to talk about this earlier because it was supposed to be fixed. They've been having problems keeping up the coolant level in reactors 1 through 3. And it's being reported by Kyoto this afternoon that the water levels are still dropping even though they flushed the pipes. TEPCO is unsure whether the flow will recover, and they don't know why it's not filling up the reactors, and it's at a level now.
Well, I can make a 90 to 95% guess that all it is the gradual deterioration with neutron annealing of the seal. No matter how many pumps they put on there, if the seal for that reactor cooling pool eventually degrades, the pumps can't keep it. In fact, the engineers have talked about this, including Arnie Gunderson, that once the seal breaks down, no amount of pumping or high-speed pumps will fix the problem. And when that happens, they've taken out the easiest bundles to remove, which are the newer ones. The older ones are very unstable, they're very hot, they're also damaged by these inch-long chunks of concrete down there that are blocking removal of these bundles that are probably twisted. And there's subsidence of the whole reactor cooling pool and these other buildings, so it means that the superstructure is twisted, so it's not going to be as clear a problem. They have to have cranes to pull out these bundles. What's likely to happen is that one or more of them are going to reach what's called critical temperature if they haven't fixed the problem, which they averted about 6 weeks ago. They actually had a D-Day, or D-MIT, when they expected that it would hit critical temperature at a certain time around 2 or 3 in the morning about a month and a half ago, and if it did, they expected to see these cooling pool fuel rod assemblies blow their cork like champagne bottles on the tarmac in Phoenix at 115 degrees. So what we're likely to see is a major release of radiation, as I've said already, and I predicted that it would happen this summer, sometime in July or August. It looks like we're on track, because I'm seeing radiation spikes on my detector into the 70s now, and they're very short. They don't last more than so many minutes, and then you just drop back again. So what's this? You know, it's like a wave of radiation. But they did the 61st release of radiation from Fukushima. We also have sinkholes all over the planet. And of course, Stan Dale's theory, as I mentioned in the earlier segment, it seems to make more sense that there is something going on with actually planetary remodeling. So something's happening to the remodeling of the actual planet, where sinkholes are developing all over the place, and subsidence that are near fault lines. The area around Louisiana where this sinkhole is actually connected with the same fault line system that goes out to the Macondo drill site and all the way up to New Madrid as well. So there's something really bad about to happen in these areas.
It would sure seem that way, and just in the last few days, the helicopters from the New Madrid have really been going off, all of them really along the New Madrid fault line. I looked into it after someone had sent me an article from National Geographic talking about the water weight of heavy rain probably precipitating earthquake activity. And this was published in 2009, and so when I went to the helicopters, I was really surprised at the amount of activity that's going on there. And that, coupled with the fact that we have a lot of nuke plants right now that are having problems with tritium leaking underground. The pipes are breaking under the plant, and this has been the most noticed is at the plant about 40 miles north of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And you think of where the proximity is to the sinkhole, the Macondo well, and the New Madrid, it's all along that line. And they've had a problem that's been worsening since December when it was first discovered. They had 22,000 picocuries per liter being measured in their groundwater wells. It's now up to 432,000 picocuries per liter. So something's really leaking under there, and they can't find the source. They're drilling new wells.
Well, the reason why that's happening, and just give some theory behind this. As a chemist, what we're having is the nuclear reaction of the Earth creates the batholith of oil. You take smaller molecules like methane and shorter chain hydrocarbons, and over millions of years, under nuclear reactions with radioisotopes, it literally catalytically creates longer and bigger chain molecules. And that's what's happening. These radioisotopes indicate the deep chambers inside the batholith and the air chambers of the Earth itself, the tectonic plates, are releasing gases through fault lines because there's about to be a major shift.
Well, okay. They do think that there was a cover-up apparently in that area when Texas Brine drilled that sinkhole, and they didn't tell the public, but the government gave them permission to fill their cavern that's in the salt dome with radioactive, what they're calling natural radioactive sources. Well, what they call natural radioactive sources is that when you do drilling, you get radioactivity of the scale, and they call it a common byproduct of oil and gas exploration and production. And so they said that they gave them permission, but they didn't tell the public they gave them permission. And they took 20 cubic feet of natural occurring radioactive material and pumped it into the cavern and into another Texas brine salt cavern in another parish. So part of this, I agree with you.
Part of it is the idea they're pumping in radioactive material. It's also part of the cover-up, because I've known, and I've dug back some forensic work going back to 1951 where they're told not to drill at the Macondo drill site, and it's because the oil industry has known this. And the reason why I knew is one of my friends, her name is Connie Musso. That's her maiden name. She's an oil engineer. She worked in Russia, all over the world. She's what's called a deep oil engineer, and her husband also is a senior oil engineer as well, works in Kazakhstan. They're close friends of mine. The oil industry is known for 60 years about abiotic oil. It's a big lie that it's from ferns and dinosaurs. It's a big lie. The oil industry wants to make sure you believe that this lie of want, that there isn't enough of it, but it's created by nuclear reactions deep in the bowels of the Earth.
Well, they went to commercial. I'm going to give you still some more updates from Pastor Paul Begley. Paul Begley 34 channel. And moving on Texas, Mark of the Beast, 666 RFID chip at schools. And they are starting to see the technology of the Mark of the Beast, RFID, in a school in Texas. He says all the parents, everyone's complaining. They're in an uproar around the school. Also, did fish, birds, cows, deer, bison, and he does a whole list of the animal kills for August, and it's incredible. It just goes on, and it's the Hosea prophecy. And I'm going to have to play that, I think, on the report for tomorrow, because I don't think I'm going to have... Well, you know what, let me see. Oh, no, I can't do it while I have the speakers going. Oh, yeah, I can't, because it's about 10 minutes long. He just reads them all off. So, that's important for you to hear. I'll play that tomorrow for you. Yes. I'll try to capture it here. Alrighty then.
And now you can. And great tasting.
Yeah, I don't want a chance missing any of Dr. DEAGLE. This is very important. Let me close this. Okay. Oh, I'm still waiting for the first video to process. You can't even see it yet. I'm trying to update that. Let's go back in here. I published it, so we'll see what happens. You don't have to sit at the screen and look at anything. Let's see here. Yeah, we're stuck. This is taking a long time to load, I'll tell you. See, I had edited it. Oh, it's saying 0 on there. Looking bad. Looks like I published this and it says 0 on there and it's processing. They must not want you to see this. Still a commercial. I'm waiting for the first one. It's only 30 minutes long. I'm waiting for it to publish. Looks like it didn't even save my editing. Let's see what happened.
With the methane bacillus and these migration channels from the methane class rates that were disrupted at Macondo 2 years ago. And I believe it's connected with what's going on in Louisiana. Now they have also the overburden of this storm constantly sitting for now days over Louisiana, dumping more and more water, knocking off power to half the state. And also the pressure of water combined with these new fissures and sinkholes, and they're seeing radon come up and methane. Tell us all about your analysis of what's going on and what this means.
Well, apparently the oil companies want to mine methane. That's natural gas, because oil and petroleum products are now they're kind of like bad words in the energy market. But natural gas is still okay. So, but in order to mine it, they have to go into these big methane caverns where the methane is under pressure. And ever since that blow up in the Gulf of Mexico, now that cavern was 5 miles down, but they've noticed that there have been fissures that have been they've been going into the shorelines of Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama, and they're deep. And so these, the methane was disturbed. The cavern was disturbed. We know it was disturbed. And that methane is under a great deal of pressure. And so if it can find a migration channel, like through a fissure, then you're going to have methane linking under the ground, and you're going to have like swamp gas and things like that. Well, those things just automatically can cause a great deal of damage just by themselves. And if that cavern then leaks out enough of the methane, you could have a methane explosion.
Yeah, I think that we're going to be surprised that the Earth changes. I'd say there's a high likelihood in the next, say, 5 years of a New Madrid fault and or San Andreas fault, especially with the earthquakes that are happening right along the California Mexico border, right along the extension for the San Andreas. The Madrid is going off the scale. Talk about that for a moment, because, and Christina, you can hop in here any time, because we need to have people understand that this is science. We don't have all the answers, but we're raising more questions because the Earth changes are happening. We're having climate change. We're also having Earth changes itself. The planet is remodeling.
The planet is remodeling. We have the magnetic North Pole racing from the Alaska-Canada border. It was right above the border there between Canada and Alaska, and it is now hitting very fast in geological terms. I mean, we're talking about feet per year towards Siberia. So it's heading back to where it started, which would be above Greenwich, England. And that means that the core of the Earth must be rotating, because that's the only thing that's going to move the magnetic pole, is if the core of the Earth, which is a torus, a nickel iron torus, if it changes its angle of rotation, then that magnetic pole is going to move, and we know that it's moving. I mean, we're watching it. We also have a change in the tilt of the Earth, and it's now 9 feet closer to Greenwich than it was. So we've had a slight change in the angle of the tilt of the Earth, and what we've been thinking is that this object coming into the solar system is aggravating that, and that because we have the core of the Earth rotating and changing its angle of rotation, that that the crustal part, that's the part that we live on, the tectonic plates are slipping on the core, and we are expecting considerable tectonic movement in the coming years.
Yeah, and syzygy, which is alignment of planets, perigee, which is a close approach to, say, the moon, increases the risk of that, as well as the equinoxes and high tides. So all those things combined increase the risk of a major quake. As we move within the next few weeks to the September 21st period, we're increasing the risk that we're going to get an energy release. But these major, if you look at the actual seismic charts, which you sent me the link to, Christina, this is very scary looking.
It is, and another factor too is the massive amount of water that we have that are coming off the Artidone. Historical melt, that water is heavy. NASA has pointed out 2 years ago that the ocean floor is sinking from the weight of some of this water. That could be affecting some of the crustal movement as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Now they say that 7.9 earthquake that occurred didn't create the tsunami, but could have. It was a little deeper than you would expect a tsunami to be generated. It was 20 miles down instead of 8. And that was probably part of the reason. And also it might have been a slip fracture instead of a primary fracture that would have gone up and down and moved the ocean. That's why they issued the tsunami warning. And when I read their news reports, they're a little unsure why there wasn't a bigger tsunami. I mean, they said it could have generated a big tsunami, but it didn't, and they're not quite sure why it didn't. it was on a subduction zone, and those quakes that occur, especially if they're 7.8, are likely to create big tsunamis in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, either something neutralized it. In other words, you got to figure an opposite force must have neutralized the tsunami at the generation site. Preparedness. What do you tell people to do, Christina and in terms of preparing for food shortages, a possible economic seizure, I would say, sometime in the next 6 months to a year? We know the fiscal cliff. These are real things. You can Google it. So people say, "Well, I'm a skeptic." Good, be a skeptic, but realize that food shortages are going to happen. Food prices are going up. The banks are doing all kinds of stupid things that aren't going to fix it. They're not just saying putting a firewall between the speculative economy and the real economy with Glass-Steagall. There's no talk that I hear so far, although they want to, quote, have a balanced budget, to yet put up not only Glass-Steagall, but also to bring back the Fed Reserve and make it only under the control of Congress. We have also the green light for a war in the Middle East, which we know will cause the price of oil to go through the ceiling. We have the meltdown of Europe. People should realize we're not trying to be negative. We're trying to be realistic so you can plan for what could happen and be prepared for it. What do you tell them?
And then you start waking up to any one of those things that you just mentioned leads to everything else and how it's all tied in together. I mean, how I prepare is going to be different from how you will, depending on your financial resources and so forth. I just tell everyone to do what you can, be aware of what's going on, but the number one thing that you need to do is prepare mentally. Outside of buying a lot of stuff, I don't think is really necessary. You can take a lot of free classes at some of the local sporting goods stores, REI and even Cabela's and Bass Pro. I mean, they have free classes on all kinds of survival camping stuff. Educate yourself. Do what you can on your limited budget. And, you can find a lot of items even at a dollar store. And just stock up on food wherever you can. Water's really important. Learn how to make a container to filter rainwater outside through clay. It's real easy if you just have, 2 Tupperware containers. So it's going to depend. It's going to be different for different people, low cost versus high cost. But the number one thing is to prepare mentally.
Yeah, and I tell people start off with simple things. 3 weeks of water. Get canned goods and other dry goods. Start getting things like our specials for preparewise.com/Dr. Bill. We have specials there now. You can get for a few $100, enough food for several months for your family. Get heritage seeds. Just be prepared with even having pots so you can actually put water in them, and then getting some 100-well poly and deck screws and some 2x4s. You can even make a greenhouse, even this, or even along the side of your house, no matter how far north you are. If you can heat it and keep the soil temperature above 50 degrees, you can grow food year-round if you can get in a south-facing area of your home. It's a lot easier than people think to actually survive, but you have to start thinking of these skill sets now and simply do some simple actions. So,
replace fear with curiosity.
Yeah,
and learn as much as you can, because all that will help. And John has mentioned his show too about taking a course in first aid, how beneficial that would be.
Yeah, take I tell them the first aid course. One of the best ones is the CERT course with the local fire department, CERT. You can get the CERT manual. Get involved. Ask questions. Don't just think, we're doing this because it's strange radio entertainment. No, it's not. We know if we're going to preserve America, we're going to preserve human civilization through another catastrophe. It's because we ask the right questions. We inspire you to realize you're not a victim. You can be an active person that can protect yourself, your family, your city, town, your society, your country. And then we can move forward. Take care, everybody, over the Labor Day holiday. Take care and drive safely.
Well, that was the report. I'm going to publish this now for you guys. You take care, and I'll see you on the flip side tomorrow. I'm going to try to get some rest. And it's 5 days down, and we're into the holiday weekend. Be safe, and always have a designated driver. Alrighty then.